Welcome to Topics in Digital Economics. My name is Paul Belflamme. In this presentation, I'd like to question the informativeness of ratings and reviews. We're talking about digital platforms. And remember, platforms enable transactions instead of controlling them. So instead of producing themselves goods and services, they just facilitate the interaction between external providers and customers, letting external providers deliver the goods. If the platform matches users, well, the service is co-created by the users, not by the platform. So it's of paramount importance for the platform to establish trust among users. And to understand the importance of trust, we can refer to the trust stack that is proposed by Rachel Botsman, and she tells us that the first important step is to drive the users to accept the very idea of using a platform instead of using a pipeline. Then you need to make users place their trust into the platform, and finally, you need to have users trust other users. Now, how can platforms do that? Well, one tool they use increasingly is ratings and review systems, R&R systems, as we will call them. Here is just an example, a book that I just selected randomly. If you want to buy it on Amazon.com, you will try to get information about the book by looking at customer reviews and the ratings, which are averaged here, and there is some information about the distribution of these ratings. And you can also look at where these ratings are coming from by directly reading the reviews of other users. Now, for this to work and for trust to be installed on the platform, these R&R systems need to be informative. That's the precondition to help platform users making more informed decisions. The problem is that there are reasons for which R&R systems may not be that informative. And that depends actually on actions of both users and platforms. Users may take actions that damage the functioning of R&R systems, and similarly platforms, and especially for-profit platforms, may want to manipulate their R&R systems. So this is what we want to detail in this presentation. We'll start with the users, then we'll move to the platforms. Let us start with users. What problems could come from the users themselves? Well, for different reasons that we will detail, ratings and reviews could be noisy. There could also be strategic distortions by the sellers or the buyers. We think of fake reviews. And also there may be herding that we will define in a minute. So what do we hear by noisy ratings and reviews? What are the reasons for which there could be noise in the ratings and reviews? Well, there are four reasons which we group into two. It could be that there is first a bad understanding of what is asked from the buyers, and then the ratings could be based on irrelevant experiences. Or buyers could have idiosyncratic tastes. In that case, they would base their ratings on characteristics for which they are heterogeneous. Two other reasons may explain why ratings and reviews could be noisy. They could be uncontrollable shocks or price variations, so shocks that actually are outside the seller's control. Okay? Or when we talk about price variations, it could be also that the users have different perceptions of value for money, which could be influenced by changes in prices. Okay, so let us take two examples, still from the same randomly selected book. Look at this comment here, this review. This user says, "It's my first time to buy used books. It has definitely met my expectations." So this user is giving 5 stars not because the book has a content that he or she finds useful, but because he had a good experience with used books. This is irrelevant with respect to the content of the book. Now, in the second example, we have an angry user that basically says that the book as a product, its tangible quality is completely unacceptable. Shame on reseller. Here, this is an uncontrollable shock, something which is outside the scope of what Amazon could do. Well, we could discuss this, but the blame is on the reseller, not on the book itself. So these ratings and these reviews may not give a lot of information to other users. Now, when we talk about strategic distortions, we mean that users intentionally write reviews which are not informative, not truthful. Okay, well, it's probably sellers that have the highest motivation to do so because they want to improve their competitive position, either by praising their own products or services or by denigrating the rivals' products and services. Okay, the problems are clear. Buyers may be fooled, and so they would make the wrong decision. And more importantly, this will undermine the confidence in the review and rating system. That will decrease the motivation for other users to leave reviews and ratings, and so globally the system will become less informative. Now, this is something which is a clear problem for many platforms, and here are just some headlines taken from the press that just show that, for example, fake Amazon reviews being sold in bulk online, or UK businesses caught buying 5-star Google reviews. Developers reveals how fake reviews and ratings play a major role in App Store scam apps. And here is an attempt by platforms to use algorithms to detect fake reviews. And the question is how accurate these algorithms are. Now, economists have looked at the impact of fake reviews. And I just quote this paper here, which is quite interesting because they try to study empirically the firm's incentives to manufacture biased ratings and reviews. And the strategy is the following. They examine the differences in reviews for a given hotel on 2 platforms, Expedia.com and TripAdvisor.com, which differ because on Expedia, you need to be a customer if you want to post a review, but on TripAdvisor, you need not. Anyone can post. Okay, so it's comparing the two is a good thing to try and see what are the motivations for people to leave fake reviews. And the other way to identify the results is also to make a difference between independent hotels and branded chain hotels, with the assumption that the net gains from fake reviews are highest for independent hotels with single unit owners and lowest for branded chain hotels with multi-unit owners. So they compare 2 platforms and also 2 types of hotels. And thereby they find these 2 important results. First of all, they find that hotel neighbors of hotels with a high incentive to fake have more negative reviews on TripAdvisor relative to Expedia. So we expect more fake reviews on TripAdvisor because anyone can post a review there. Okay, and actually we also see that the neighbors of hotels with a high incentive to fake do actually have more negative reviews, and in the opposite way, hotels with a high incentive to fake have more positive reviews on TripAdvisor relative to Expedia.com. So that suggests that for strategic reasons, if it's possible, hotels would post fake positive reviews to improve their position, and also post negative reviews on rival hotels to denigrate them and also thereby increase their position. Now, another strategic distortion that could come from the users themselves have to do with 2-sided review and rating systems. So 2-sided means that both buyers and sellers rate one another. And this is something which is desirable on platforms where both buyers and sellers have private information or can choose private actions. So there is asymmetric information on both sides if you want. Okay. Now, what are the risks of distortions here? Well, one main risk is the fear of retaliation if there are negative rating and reviews. So the idea being that I may refrain myself from leaving a negative review if I fear that there will be retaliation by the other party. The other party would leave an even more negative review. right? And there are some evidence suggesting that this was taking place on eBay, where a buyer was 3 times more likely to complain to customer service than to give a negative rating. I say was because eBay noticed that and changed later on its system. Another risk would be that there is collusion between the parties to inflate the ratings. So buyer and seller would kind of tell one another, if I give you a good rating, you give me a good rating as well. Okay. Now, the solutions to this problem, one obvious solution is make sure that the rating by one party will not be made public before the other party has posted their own rating or review. Okay, so that would correct this fear of retaliation, but also the collusion possibility. Okay, well, maybe not the collusion, but the fear of retaliation, certainly. Now, this is not a perfect solution because people may still be concerned that their track record would be observed. And so this can be checked out by the other party before transaction. And so if, for example, I am noticed as someone who is leaving consistently bad reviews, well, the other party may not be willing to have a transaction with me. Okay, so there, it's still not clear how this distortion of two-sided rating system may be improved. Right, last reason for which users may make actions that make rating and reviews less informative, this last reason has to do with herding, which simply says that the past reviews and ratings influence the current ones. And so, as a consequence, there are long-lasting effects of fake ratings and reviews if they are not removed quickly. Okay, and this is made worse somehow by the fact that this herding is asymmetric. As roughly said, it works more for positive reviews and ratings than for negative ones. Okay, so that would give some kind of additional incentive for firms to leave fake positive reviews, trying to improve their ratings. Let us now move to platforms and try and understand why they may want to design their R&R system in such a way that they are less informative. Well, the reason is to do to what we call a dilemma between informativeness and profits. On the one hand, platforms want to make their R&R system more informative because this is a way to make the platform more attractive for any user. But the problem comes from the fact that not all users are as profitable for the platform to attract. And so by twisting the R&R system, they may want to attract more those users who are more profitable for the platform. Okay, so there is a reason for platforms to bias their R&R system to either give more prominence to products and sellers for which the platform earns larger commissions, or it may also be profitable for the platform to decrease the seller competition by discouraging search by users. So if sellers are less in competition with one another, they will make larger profits, and part of these profits can be captured by the platform itself. And a third bias or reason to bias the system would be to give less prominence to offers that are cheaper on competing platforms. And here we've got some evidence about this practice. These authors here, they're using data from Booking, Expedia, and Kayak for more than 18,000 hotels in 250 cities. And what they find is that for a given price on a hotel booking platform, a lower price on the other platform or on the hotel's website leads to a worse position on the list. Okay, so websites or platforms tend to reduce the prominence of those hotels here who could be bought more cheaply by users on other platforms. Right, so we can extend this reasoning to search engines as well, and there are 3 reasons for which search engines could be biased. One reason is partial integration, so the fact that the owner of the search engine also owns other services, and so may be tempted to twist the search engine in such a way that the users will have more incentive to buy the own product or own offering of the platform itself. Okay, so there is extra prominence for the own offering of the platform / pipeline because of partial integration, more prominence to its own offering than to the third-party providers. And you probably have in mind this important case, which is still pending now between the European Commission and Google. The European Commission has fined Google €2.42 billion euros for abusing dominance as search engine by giving illegal advantage to its own comparison shopping service. Google is in appeal for the moment, and there are also suspicion that Amazon is changing its search algorithm in ways that boost its own products. Okay, so that is one important reason for which search engines could be biased. Another one has to do with the monetization strategies of these platforms. If they are ad-based, there may be reasons actually to bias the search engine. So let's look at this quote here. Let's read it together. The goals of the advertising business model of search engines do not always correspond to providing quality search to users. We expect that advertising-funded search engines will be inherently biased towards the advertisers and away from the needs of the consumers. This quote is taken from this scientific article here, and you may know who the authors are. The authors are Sergey Brin and Larry Page, and you probably know that these two scientists are now the CEOs of Google. They are the co-founders of Google. So they were kind of seeing what would happen later on, and they're quite honest about the fact that there is inherently a temptation for search engines to be biased when they are funded by advertising. So let us take stock of what we've learned in this presentation. First of all, establishing trust among users is of paramount importance for platforms. Rating and review systems are powerful tools in this regard, but their informativeness may be endangered by users and platforms. Users may distort R&Rs on purpose, like fake reviews, or not, for other reasons, and platforms may bias R&R systems to increase their profitability. If you're interested in this topic and want to read more, I can point you to this book here, and the whole book may be interesting for you. You can access it through this address here. And what I've told you in this presentation is based on Chapter 3, which I co-wrote with Martin Peitz. That's it for now. Thank you for your attention.